the nation's capital, the Conservative Caucus presents Conservative Roundtable, an in-depth look at today's most important issues.
Welcome to Conservative Roundtable. I'm Howard Phillips, and our guest for this broadcast is Angela Bay Buchanan, who has been prominent as a star of television, active in her brother's presidential campaigns, and active in politics in her own right. During the Reagan administration, Bay Buchanan was Treasurer of the United States. Bay, I know at one point seeking political office was part of your agenda. Is it still part of your agenda?
No, you know, Howie, I did run for office out there in California. Back in 1990, I ran for Treasurer of the state. I had a terrific fun, just great fun. I don't think I've enjoyed any endeavor quite as much, or at least it was up on the top 5, certainly. But it's not something in my immediate plans right now. I'm raising 3 boys. They're teenagers. I like to be as close as possible so we can get them through these years successfully. And I think the best thing that I can do for them is to be around every evening so I know where they are.
Now, during this last campaign, we were involved in different political parties. I was with the Constitution Party. You were with the Reform Party. Tell me about the Reform Party and where you think it's going.
The Reform Party was, we really felt it was important to try to make an effort. We thought the Reform Party was the right way to go. We had a terrific run, enjoyed every minute of it, no regrets whatsoever. There was some people involved in the Reform Party who were not totally honest with us. We know now that there was some money from the Republicans and there was some real influence there to try to undermine our efforts. We had won the thing clean. They illegally put Hagelin on the ballot. So there was
money
a lot
from the Republicans.
I don't know how much money, but I know Hagelin has admitted to receiving benefits from the Republicans to try to do what they could to thwart our efforts. We had won the nomination. We were the only people that should have been on the ballot legally. But the Perot people worked against us and illegally put Hagelin on the ballot, and that's what caused us all our turmoil.
As I recall, Catherine Harris caused some trouble down in the state of Florida.
We had our own Catherine Harris. But we played it, we said, okay, they want to do this, we'll still win. We'll win at the convention instead of on the ballot. But it did cause a lot of turmoil. Then Pat became sick. That hurt us. The debate was key.
Pat's health is good now.
Is unbelievably well. Okay. He's feeling marvelous. But the debate was key. We knew all along that if we didn't, that even if we won the nomination, if we didn't get in the debates, that it was not going to be the kind of successful run that we thought we could otherwise have. And then, of course, as you know, there's so many conservatives across the country, people who are writing us checks, who just in the end said, look, all things are being said now, we are either it's Gore or Bush, and we have to get rid of Gore. So they chose Bush. And that's the American politics.
Where do you think the Reform Party will go? Will it still be around in 2002 and 2004?
I think it's going to be.
If so, what will its direction be?
We're watching. Our people in the field, we had a meeting in January and asked them what role they would like us to play. And they felt very strongly that it's time for them to step forward and organize their states in such a way that they could come to the convention that's being held next month and be
that's
able
in July in Nashville.
Exactly. And that they would be there, and if they can't bring the number of people so that they could really move the direction of the Reform Party, then there's no sense in us trying to run it from a national level. It has to be successful at the state level. And so I know there's a real effort to see that the platform be a pro-life statement be written into that platform. I know that there's some real fine people are running for office. But, we no longer have the 5% rule. We don't have the matching funds. I just think it's going to be a very, very difficult run for them to keep it viable.
Do you see any indication that Ross Perot or Russ Verney or Jesse Ventura or Donald Trump is seeking any residual influence in the Reform Party?
Do not see it.
Or John Hagelin?
No, I don't. They all went about the. I think their whole purpose was to stop Pat Buchanan. I think Ross Perot did everything he could to see that Pat Buchanan was not successful. I don't think they ever intended for us to win the nomination, and when we were so successful at those state conventions, they panicked and they started bringing other forces in. I feel pretty certain that that's exactly what happened. I know enough that have been right on the front lines. I saw it. But that being said, that was always a possibility, Howard. They played theirs. We did the best we could. We really wanted to build that party. We wanted to take it somewhere. They wanted to destroy it. I think they were extraordinarily successful. And whether our people can resurrect that party, I wish them the best, but I don't know if it's possible.
Let's talk about the debates. In 1992, there was no problem for Ross Perot getting into the debates. He wasn't in the big debates in 1996, but there was a forum provided by Larry King in which Ross Perot took part, as did I. Ralph Nader was given an opportunity. This year, all of us were shut out. Yes, there is an unconstitutional, semi-official debate commission, but in this vast country of ours, why is there no network or station or newspaper that will say, the heck with what the official establishment says, we're going to give the American people a chance to hear all of the candidates who are qualified to be on the ballot in 40-plus states. How can they close everyone out? Is the whole country locked up?
I think it comes down, first of all, the Democrats and Republicans have enormous power. And we got the best attorneys in the country. I mean, we got really top-notch Washington attorney, really knew what he was doing. And we got the judge to admit that Pat had standing and that he should be respected as somebody who should be considered, but that they didn't want to overrule the Federal Election Commission. Well, that's Republicans and Democrats. But I think that was the big one.
The people who made the decisions for the FEC were Frank Fahrenkopf.
That's correct.
Former chairman of the Republican National Committee, now represents the gambling industry. He calls it gaming, but we know what that means. And Paul Kurek, who used to be Ted Kennedy's AA, and who was chairman of the Democratic National Committee.
You know, Howie, you make a point. Why wasn't there some other group that stepped forward? I say also, where was the outrage in the press that there wasn't that this whole thing was fixed, that it was a phony program, that the law should not be that. I mean, that the law is clear. The law is very clear that it should be opened up, and it was not. But they just said, well, you're not going to win. That's how it's played. You know, that's how the game is played. Well, the game is played in a corrupt manner, and the press is saying, well, that's the way it's played. Well, how can you? Isn't that the role of the press, is to keep the politicians and your government honest?
The myth is that the press is fair and impartial, and we know that's a myth.
They didn't want us in.
In the early days of the Republic, it was openly admitted by the media and by the politicians that the press was owned. One party had this newspaper, another had that newspaper. Jefferson had one of his top polemicists on the payroll of the State Department when he was Secretary of State. Abraham Lincoln started 12 German-language newspapers in Illinois to get the votes of German immigrants as he was building his political career. Everyone knew that there's no such thing as impartiality, that the media has biases. Now we have this myth of impartiality, and you have Jim Lehrer as the moderator, whose claim to fame is that he's on taxpayer-subsidized television, and he avoids raising, as moderator, any of the issues that Howard Phillips and Ralph Nader and Pat Buchanan and Harry Brown were talking about during the campaign.
And there's no question that the media across the board did not want any of us in these debates, because they recognize that the Republicans and Democrats have now moved to the center and they're in a comfortable range, and neither party.
It doesn't really matter which party runs, because whether it's World Trade Organization, MFN for Red China, federal money for education, increases in federal spending, increases in revenues. Even with the so-called Bush tax cut, the tax take of the federal government goes up every year. And they know, and that's the way they like it.
And they know that if either of those two groups in power were to start moving a little bit too far right or too left, they can write. They don't worry about to the left. They write their stories, and our guys back off, so they can control what's happening right now.
And they thought Ralph Nader was a very bad boy because he was interrupting their game.
Exactly. And normally they would love Ralph Nader, but he wasn't playing by their rules that week, so they were very unhappy with him.
But here's another problem. What if a candidate says, I'm sorry, I will not take part in a debate with that person? Now, I had a conversation with George Bush when he was governor. I had the opportunity to chat with him at the state capitol in Austin. And he said to me emphatically that under no circumstances would he debate anyone other than the nominee of the Democratic Party. Now, I'm sure he was tempted at the possibility of being able to have just Ralph Nader in there to take away votes from Gore, but his position was pretty unequivocal. How do you overcome that? If the media won't help you shame a candidate who refuses to debate, how do you do it?
I don't think it can be done. You know, we didn't just come up to win the nomination and say, oh gosh, how do we get into this debate? The day that we made the decision to go reform, I was on the phone to this attorney who is an expert in First Amendment and FCC, and he brought his whole law firm together. We spent a lot of money, $150,000 on attorneys who just studied it and won and did very, very well. And the bottom line is the judge said, I don't want to overturn a regulatory agency. If they won't take the step to do what's right or force the government to do and apply, to apply the law as it's intended, there is, Howie, nothing we can do.
You know, during the War for American Independence, the rules of engagement were not written by George III. Had that happened, we probably would still be subjects of the British Empire, just as we're now subjects of the liberal establishment elite. We're going to take a break. When we come back, I'm going to ask Bay Buchanan whether she thinks it's possible to put the Republican Party back on a conservative track. Please stay with us. Hello, I'm Howard Phillips. The Conservative Caucus has been actively fighting since 1974 for less expensive government and lower taxes imposed upon the American people by the federal government. If you want to become part of our effort to reduce the size and cost and regulatory burden of the federal government, I hope you will call the number shown on your screen.
For more information about the Conservative Caucus, write us at 450 Maple Avenue East, Vienna, Virginia, 22180, or call 703-938-9626. Here's how you can become a citizen lobbyist and influence how your representatives vote. Write a letter to your congressmen and senators. Speak out on a call-and talk radio program. Write a letter to the editor of your local newspaper and call the Conservative Caucus for more information at 703-938-9626.
Back. I'm Howard Phillips. Our guest on this edition of Conservative Roundtable is Angela Bay Buchanan, well known for her key role in the presidential campaigns of Pat Buchanan and for her leadership of American Cause. Bay, before we talk about American Cause, I'd appreciate your reflections on the political past and the political future. It was a very tough decision for Pat to leave the Republican Party. And as you know, we talked about that back in 1996. Even before then, we talked about it. And you weigh Pat had a lot to lose. You weigh the pluses and minuses. And I'm not going to ask you to retrace that decision, but what I will ask you is whether you think there are conservatives inside the Republican Party who can recover the Republican Party for conservative principles. Now, let me just tell those of you watching this audience that, in my view, and I would assume in that of Bay Buchanan, the Bush administration is not a conservative administration. You look at the budget, it's the biggest level of expenditure in history. You look at the New World Order foreign policy. Did you hear they're talking about naming Chester Crocker to negotiate the peace in Sudan? Isn't that unbelievable? You look at the increase in funding for Planned Parenthood, federal control of education, the funding of the homosexual movement, expansion of the National Endowment for the Arts, Legal Services Corporation, the failure to do what needs to be done in defense. This is not my idea of conservatism. This was a question you had to ask yourself. Can the Republican Party be taken over from within?
You know, we tried it many years. And we recognized that the leadership in the Republican Party had just took control of it. And so presidential nominations were not really nominations coming from the grassroots of the Republican Party, but were chosen, and I think it was more apparent than ever when they chose George Bush, by the hierarchy. and that then they told the people this was best for the Republican Party. And once that happens, once they get control of the leadership like that, and basically knock everyone else out, so there's no chance that
it's not just the leadership, it's control of the money. If you control
the money, exactly.
The National Committee, the Congressional Campaign Committee, the Senatorial Committee, that's the game.
And that money chooses your nominee. I mean, that money decides it's going to be this person, and that's it. That's, I mean, you know, when you saw that, you know, we've run against people with 20 and 25 million, and we had 5 to 10 or 8, and we can beat them. We've shown we can beat them. When we beat daggone Phil Graham, he had $20-some million against our, you know, matching funds. We're putting our money together, getting our $25 contributions. We whipped the fella. But when somebody has $95 million and you have 12 to 15, it's over. And then what they do is, of course, they put all those primaries smack together. And so if someone who's a grassroots candidate, like a Ronald Reagan, can only win if you're in a couple small states and you can build momentum. You can't.
So in other words, outsiders, in your view, cannot defeat the courtiers.
No,
you have to be a courtier. You
correct,
have to be a member of
correct.
the establishment
You have to be the
in
inside.
order to be considered.
Ronald Reagan could never win a nomination in the Republican Party today as the governor of California. He, as you remember, in those days, he was not the insider. He was not the mainstream Republican's choice. And he couldn't have won the nomination as they've done it. And that's why they've done it, to make certain they're the ones that are choosing. And you can't have any of these renegades coming here and getting some kind of movement behind them and actually taking over. So going back to your question, can a conservative take over? They can't through the presidential means right now. I don't see that happening. But what your only hope is that there's some core group in Congress that recognizes that they're going to have to break with their party and start working as conservatives and establishing the conservative agenda and being well known as not always willing to go along with their speaker. And as long as they have the White House and the White House is pounding on them, I see no possibility. I think the only hope is they lost the Senate, lose the Congress, and then I think you'll start seeing something happening over there. I don't see it's going to happen before that, Allie.
Hey, you're a nationally recognized political analyst and commentator. Excuse me, what do you think the Democrats will do in the 2004 presidential election?
It all depends on George Bush. I think they're not going to give him anything in the next year or so. And so what George Bush has to do is what Bill Clinton did and Ronald Reagan. And that is you have a Congress, you have a Democratic Senate. And so you put some really good programs. You send them right up there and you let them go down. But you fight for them, you get on that bully pulpit, you let the country know this is what's right, this is good, this is the direction we should take this country. And these daggone Democrats will not give it to us. They will not work with us. We need a Republican Congress, both in the House and in the Senate. And in that way, you establish yourself as different from them, and you offer the American people a way to go, a way for them to make a decision and change things. But I believe, and as I see what's happening right now, is that Bush is going to want to get along, go along, get along, give a little bit to the Democrats, show we're working things out. And the Democrats are going to bash his head in. And they're going to get out there publicly and say, look at this guy, will not work with us, won't give us this. He says he will, but he won't give as much we want. And they're going to start giving them more and more, and it's going to look as if the Democrats are in charge. If Bush will not be confrontational, I believe that the Republicans will lose the House.
In 2002.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And in 2004, who knows who might emerge? Maybe Dick Gephardt.
He certainly is looking at it. He certainly is looking at it, and Democrats find him an incredibly attractive candidate. I know I've talked to a number of them, and they are very much thinking he is going to lead them back to victory.
If Dick Cheney, for whatever reason, does not seek re-election, is not chosen by George Bush to once again run for the vice presidency, whom do you think Bush would consider? Who are the 2 or 3 people on Bush's short list?
You know, I don't know who they would be. I mean, I know that, someone like a Frank Keating was on the short list when he was considering the first time.
He's on a different kind of list now.
Yeah, now he's absolutely.
He's not under consideration
exactly, for anything. And what happened? There you have it.
The Bush people have long memories. They're very vindictive. They hold a grudge. And something happened during the campaign.
Sure did.
That Keating said that ended his relationship with George Bush forever. They'd never forget. And
I think that Bush would obviously want someone like a Colin Powell, especially if Colin Powell still has that.
And I've heard Bill Frist discuss.
Yes,
Senator
but
from Tennessee.
Exactly, people he is comfortable with. and these are not conservatives. And in fact, you know, it's very funny how I've done a lot of TV in the last couple of months, and I'm on there, and the liberal will say, you know, the problem is that George Bush is a right-wing extremist. And I'm thinking, wait a minute, that's me, okay? I'm proud of being the right-wing. He is not even a conservative, but that's, see, what they're saying is that Bush is extreme.
So
Bush is far right. Oh, yeah, I'm gone. But they do it deliberately. So then Bush gets nervous and he has got to come back to the middle. Well, the middle is the liberal, you know, homeland right now, and they're buying it, I believe.
In terms of what's going to happen with the Republican Party, do you see any internal challenges emerging to Bush? As things now stand, I don't see any.
Certainly not from the conservatives, and I don't think John McCain is going to challenge him.
We just have a couple of minutes. Tell us about American Cause and what it's up to and what your plans are. American Cause
is an education foundation that Pat founded back in 1993, and we've been involved in some terrific battles. GATT and NAFTA, we were very much out in front on those. Puerto Rican statehood, we were extremely successful.
You were not for it.
We were against it, and in fact worked with, you know, in 24-hour notice, Linda Chavez gave us. We got up there and we got the information to the Republican senators, and we really turned that thing around, quite honestly. But we're very excited, because before we've always had to go dormant for the 2 years Pat was running for president, because we didn't want anyone to suggest that this foundation
legal concerns.
Yes, legal concerns. And so we just completely went dormant, so nobody would think that we were involved inappropriately there. But now I do not believe Pat will run again. And so we've just taken out some space. We bought a townhouse.
Never, ever, ever he'll run again?
I don't believe so. You know, you never say never, but I don't believe he will.
I understand he's working on a book.
He's finished one, and he has a taker, and it'll be published at the end of this year or the first of next year, and he's begun another one. He loves it. He goes in his basement, he studies, he reads, and he writes these books. But the American Cause is really excited. We're taking on a number of issues. We're going to be looking at the sovereignty issue. We got a great website, www.theamericancause.org, and it is every day we have the new information. You want to keep an idea, sorry, something's happening to my eye here, but on trade, on life. We've got a lot of real issues you can follow. We've got a newsletter. We're going to have conferences twice a year. We're hoping to go on a European trip with you. And so we're very, very excited about the possibilities of really leading some of these big issue battles back here in Washington and in the States.
Stay with us. When we come back, we'll let you know how you can get in touch with American Cause, and Bay will give us a little bit more information about their agenda and their strategy. Stay with us. Hi, I'm Howard Phillips, Chairman of the Conservative Caucus. I'm inviting you to learn more about the Conservative Caucus, a grassroots public policy action organization that was founded in 1974. Whether you're opposed to socialized medicine, interested in making Congress more accountable, stopping the New World Order, fighting gun control, reducing taxes, or restoring America to its biblical premises and constitutional boundaries, we're the organization you're looking for. Please call the number on your screen to get more information about our work.
For more information, write the Conservative Caucus, 450 Maple Avenue East, Vienna, Virginia, 22180, or call 703-938-9626.
Welcome back. I'm Howard Phillips. Our guest for this broadcast of Conservative Roundtable has been Angela Bay Buchanan of American Cause. If you are interested in the kinds of issues discussed on Conservative Roundtable, I hope you'll check out our website for the Conservative Caucus, www.conservativeusa.org, or you can contact us by mail at 450 Maple Avenue East, Vienna, Virginia, 22180. And if you drop us a note mentioning Conservative Roundtable, I'll be pleased to send you a complimentary copy of my newsletter, the Howard Phillips Issues and Strategy Bulletin. Bay, how can people get in touch with the American Cause?
Well, they can either call us directly at 703-734-2700. We're in McLean, Virginia. Or the web. We've got a terrific website. It's www.theamericancause.org. And it's updated daily and has all about those issues that are important to you, to me, and millions of Americans, sovereignty and trade and life.
How large a staff do you have working on that update?
We have one gal who is just outstanding and uses LexisNexis, so she has a great research operation right there, but she's outstanding, and she works that every morning. Of course, a couple of us come in and we talk about what should be on there, but we have it fresh and new every day, and we have a newsletter. Our initial newsletter will be going out in 2 weeks, and we'll have a monthly newsletter. In addition to that, we have historical conferences. We've had one initial one, which was just a one-day one, but we have one in September coming at Gettysburg. And as I said, we hope to be going in Europe.
Which side will you be on in Gettysburg?
We'll go to the south, my friend, the south.
Your brother has some Confederate roots.
Definitely, but no, we hope to have a real objective review of the history of Gettysburg. But it should be real exciting. But we've gone to Boston, and how we were talking earlier about how it is when you gather around. Many of us maybe went to these places when we were in 7th grade, 8th grade field trip, never went back, possibly with the kids real quickly. But this is a time where you really sit back and talk to people and just really immerse yourself in the history. And you come away, you feel a spirit when you're there, and you're really out there in the Lexington, and you see exactly what was going on, where the British were and where the Patriots were. And it's just a wonderful feeling, and you learn a lot and feel a little bit more American just having been there.
Well, we have a great history, and it would be a tragedy if an entire generation reached maturity without being fully immersed in that history. As George Orwell said, he who controls the past controls the future, and he who controls the present controls the past. And we need to recover that great past so that we can take back our future. Thanks for joining us on Conservative Roundtable, and Bay, thank you for taking the time to be with us. Good luck with American Cause. Say hi to Patrick.